Bulk, burro, okay? There's a variety of names for it. But this is, as I'm sure John explained to you today when you were at the barn, about the fact that air-curing tobacco is a controlled necrosis of the leaf. Well, in the case of fermenting tobacco, it's really a controlled composting of the leaf. What we're essentially doing is by taking those leaves that have been sorted and tied into gavillas, we're then stacking them in a very particular methodology. And by the introduction of water, in addition to the tobacco, the natural enzymes and bacteria that's in the tobacco will cause this to heat up. Just the same way as you would compost, debris at your house. The difference is we don't allow the tobacco to cook itself. It's our job to monitor what's happening in the bulk and to break the bulk down when it's ready to be turned over. And what you're going to end up seeing is, in a bulk like this, there's a lot of varieties in play. First thing is the variety of the tobacco. Certain varieties require bulks of certain sizes. Some tobaccos ferment out best at small bulks. Like you see the little tiny bulk over there on the side? What that is that's actually the same tobacco, but that little bit over there just needs a little bit extra. It's kind of being finished off a little aging. Certain tobaccos you can build bulks as little as 2,000 to 2,500 pounds. Other tobaccos, they have to be built in bulks as much as 7,000 pounds. The two varieties that you're looking at in this room currently are stock cut Habano and Connecticut broadleaf. As in typical Drew Estate fashion, we decided to do the most difficult wrappers on the planet to bulk. And they're very, very difficult. Typical Habano seed tobacco, you can go through a first and second fermentation in about 9 months' time. The Connecticut stock cut, it takes us upwards of 2 years, as it does with the broadleaf. Both of them are 2-year processes. And what will end up happening is, as the temperature rises in the center of the bulks, we will then have to break this bulk down. And what we do is we have to keep track of every single bulk and what the temperature is every single day. And what you're looking at here is basically on the chalkboard, so that you don't have to read the clipboards. It's just what the current month is. And you can see these bulks where they are. And like here's an example. You take this Pilon 23. It's this Pilon, do I want Pilon 23? No, yes, Pilon 23 is good. Okay, you got this broadleaf from Foster. You can see, boom, 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 but it's flatlined at 112. It wasn't going anywhere. So what ended up happening is that bulk got broken apart, that's what the carat means, was rebuilt, and on the first day they rebuilt the bulk, it was 82 degrees at the center. And you can just see in the last, you can see what happened, 82, and look, it shot up to 94 overnight. In one night, it went up 12 degrees. That was so quick that Chema, the very next day, took the entire bulk apart and rebuilt the whole 3,948 pounds. Okay, so essentially you're taking one of these 4,000 pounds and you're taking every leaf from where it is in the bulk, and you're taking the top to the bottom to the top, the outside to the inside to the outside, and he just did that for 2 days. It is not uncommon with these heavy style tobaccos to have to turn these bulks upwards of 15 to 18 times, and in some cases even more than that. And you can just see by the board, you can see the escalating temperatures and the break points. Depending on where the tobacco is in its stage will depend on how high we allow it to go. Depending on where type of tobacco it is will determine how high it's going. Depending on what we're hoping to achieve out of the tobacco will determine how high it goes. Like for example, take Liga Privada No. 9s, Connecticut No. 1 darks. I could make every single one of those cigars jet black perfect. Look drop dead gorgeous. But it's a compromise. To do that, I gotta let it ferment a little longer, I gotta allow the bulk to generate some additional heat, and to achieve that color, I end up giving a little bit up in taste and aroma. So for me, I would rather, when I look at a No. 9, I'd rather see a little bit of streaking in the wrapper to preserve the taste and the aroma. Another manufacturer, he's going to say, no, I want the cigar to look perfect, bam, 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 and he's going to take that bulk up to a much higher temperature. It all depends on what you're trying to achieve. Hey, Chema, let's break open a bulk so they can jam their hand in it. That tobacco is in your hand.
Oh.
And feel how warm that is from just underneath that bit.
Oh, that's good.
Isn't that tremendous?
Yeah. That's amazing.
Now, if you just allowed it to go, what would eventually happen is this leaf would just compost itself. And what you're smelling in the room is you're smelling the release of the ammonia that's being given off by this tobacco. And what you'll see is in the center of each of these bulks,
this?
What we do is we insert the PVC pipe, and we have the sort thermometers so that we can monitor the temperatures in the individual bulks. Now, depending on the bulk, everybody has their own methodology. In some cases, in some of these bulks, we'll take the tobacco stems and we'll moisten them and we'll layer them in on a broadleaf bulk. Particularly when we're in its first stage. In the second stage, we wouldn't do that because that would cause staining on the leaf. Okay? Some manufacturers, they actually introduce bacteria to the bulk to help move the process along. It's a way to kind of shortcut nature a little bit, you know? Some people, they use for their mojado, they'll take the stems and they'll actually mix it with water and they'll let it steep in a barrel. And then what they'll do is when they're prepping the gavia, they'll actually take the gavia and they'll dip it in that stem-soaked water. And what it'll end up having is they'll end up adding additional nicotine to the leaf and give it a little bit more flavor. This is the part of the process that's a lot more art than science. Everybody does it differently, and everybody has a different opinion, and everybody is an absolute expert as far as they're concerned. It's the way it is. Chema's an expert, right, Chema? Chema's in charge of the tobacco bodega. He takes care of all the tobacco over here, and this is his responsibility and operation. But I have to tell you, when Chema first came to us, he came to us from Oliva, and like most people in the company, I don't want to say Chema was the best guy we could have gotten, to be honest with you. But he was young, he's eager, and he's very bright, and he learned from the best over at Oliva Tobacco Trading Company. And in the beginning, we screwed up a lot of tobacco because we had to learn a lot of these processes on our own, because when you talk to the people that know, you get 18 different opinions. And at one point, I always tell people, Nick and I would tell Chema to do these crazy things to see how this would work, and we'd actually make us sign a piece of paper saying that this is what we told him to do. Because when you look at one of these Pilons, you're looking at about $100,000 worth of tobacco. So you make a mistake with one of these, because this thing, as you saw, that one bulk, what, 12 degrees, 14 degrees overnight.
Right.
Things can get very ugly very fast, and you have to worry about this tobacco, because even if it looks like it's still sano, which means complete, whole, it may be fine, but when you take it out to the production floor, that leaf will actually shatter on the tables. So even though it appears to be structurally sound to you here, ultimately when it gets put to prep through Desperio, when it put on the production floor, the leaf is actually worthless. So you have to really know what you're doing at this segment.